Honestly, I think the name is fine. I don't see why it's such a big deal. It's just a name that will eventually associate solely with the game, and by that time it's just gonna sound normal. I mean, just look at Splatoon. There were people that thought that that name was terrible for some reason, but flash forward now and nobody really talks about anything that's... Wait a sec. This is the wrong video. Shit. So, to the surprise of many, Square Enix already had a demo ready for Octopath Traveler, which they released to the public a few days ago. I was prepared to do another trailer analysis, but since the announcement of the demo, that became pretty pointless. So instead I thought I'd go over what I'm liking about the game so far, as well as a few things that have me a little worried. I got the chance to try the demo the other day, but keep in mind that I only played through Olberic's path, although I have seen a bit of footage of Primrose's path as well. The first thing is something I'm sure all of you already noted for yourselves. This game is really nice to look at. The Bravely Default team has once again created a very unique visual style to accompany their game. Every single area in this demo is beautiful, especially the cave areas where the lighting effects really show themselves off. Basically, whenever there's an opportunity for light to bounce around off a reflective surface, it looks absolutely fantastic. I don't think I need to say too much more about that. Next is something that I find to be a huge improvement over the Bravely Default games. The fighting in this game feels really nice. Now, I'm not referring to the battle system. Bravely Default had a fantastic system with all the different job paths, and I'm sure Octopath Traveler will share the same level of depth. What I'm talking about are the sounds and visuals that accompany those systems. One of the reasons why I find myself defending turn-based combat is because I think that the genre has a lot of strengths that have yet to be fully explored. One of those strengths is the ability to put visual style at the forefront. In a turn-based combat system, a director can do whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't have to worry about real-time mechanics that would otherwise restrict the way he can design a fight. Everything from the camera's position to the speed everything moves at to what's going on in the background. All of that becomes open to the developer to play around with. In Bravely Default, they don't take a lot of creative liberties with the freedom that they have. Everything just feels very standard. Every background is the same blue area, and most of the attacks feel very basic. In Octopath Traveler, there's a lot of effort put into making every action feel nice. When you use one of your abilities, the screen darkens and the camera zooms in to emphasize the flashing lights. When you defeat an enemy, there's this blast back of sparks that's really satisfying to look at when you finish someone off. When you break an enemy, everything slows down and you get this little glass breaking animation behind them. Additionally, their character icons shatter right off the screen to indicate their loss of a turn. Just look what happens when you spend your battle points. Bravely Default had a very similar system with Brave points, but when you spend your Brave points to charge up for a big attack, all you get is a few little red flashes on the character model. But when you spend your battle points in Octopath Traveler, the whole area lights up with either red, yellow, or blue light depending on how many points you used. And if you spend 4 points, your character becomes surrounded by this flaming aura, and you even get a little quote from the character as well. When you finally go to attack after you spend your points in Bravely Default, it just feels kinda slow and a little bit weak. But when I go to attack in Octopath Traveler, it feels like I'm straight up wailing on a man. Like Jesus, Olberic, that's a villager. That's fucking murder, man. My point is, everything is emphasized and you can really feel every action you take in battle. A few other things I liked about the demo. The music is really good and it really gives off an old school JRPG vibe. The different ways that all the characters can interact with NPCs is going to be a great incentive to explore the towns more thoroughly than usual. And like I mentioned before, the battle system is shaping up to be complex, and the story segments were nice, although I'm sure they'll take a backseat in this game compared to the side quests and exploration bits. Now, on to the thing that has me just a little worried. The paths and dungeons. Of course, we only have a small sample size of areas to deal with, so I could totally be wrong, but at this point, Octopath Traveler is looking like it might have the Bravely Default problem. I enjoyed Bravely Default a lot, but the dungeons are a huge weak point, and that's because they all play out the same way every time. Run through 3 or 4 segmented areas, run down a few dead-end paths to reach the same chest that has an item in it that you probably don't need, and trudge through a few few basic gimmicks that are more irritating than amusing. And if I remember correctly, there's only about 3 different songs for every dungeon in the game. As you could imagine, all the dungeons start to blend together. For Octopath, it may not be that big of a deal at the moment because there's only a few places to go, but the game's gonna have to put in a bigger effort than Bravely Default did to make sure every location doesn't start to feel exactly the same, especially considering how large this game is gonna be. There's no problem with having a set amount of generic dungeons just to fill some space, but there also needs to be a set amount of dungeons that shake things up and change the pace a little. Do what Pokemon does, where they have the standard cave and route exploration, but they also have the exceptionally varied gyms every so often. I don't know, just don't have every single dungeon function the same way. I want to see all these landmarks have meaning besides just the lore and the visual presentation. I'm probably sounding pretty negative right now, so I just want to mention that this isn't that big of a deal. Bravely Default was carried by its battle system and visual style, and it looks like Octopath Traveler is gonna do the same for the most part. Even if they don't spend too much time fleshing out this one aspect, there's several other areas that the game is excelling in anyway. Overall, I really like the demo. It's nice to see the Bravely Default team get the chance to make something new, but more importantly, it's nice to see a classic style JRPG get its chance in the spotlight. With the industry moving farther and farther away from these kinds of games, Octopath is both nostalgic and a breath of fresh air at the same time. I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the characters will play, and in general, I guess I'm just excited to play the full game. Also, there's way too many damn save points. There's no sense of risk or adventure when every save point is 20 steps away from each other. Maybe get rid of some of those. Maybe get rid of a lot of those. Thank you.